Hey, what's up, rock stars? It's Rox. Welcome back to the channel. All right, you guys, we just got two things we're talking about today. One good, one bad. Let's talk about the Derek Chauvin trial, and let's talk about Ma'Khia Bryant. Let's talk about it. All right, you guys, so I am here to tell you, just in case you weren't one of the millions of people who were watching last night with bated breath, to find out that Derek Chauvin was found guilty on all counts. That's a charge of second-degree murder, a charge of third-degree murder, and a charge of second-degree manslaughter. Guilty on all counts. The city of Minneapolis, the state of Minnesota, the country, the United States, everybody, for the most part, is happy to find that Derek Chauvin was found guilty because he was guilty. For 9 minutes and 29 seconds, he held his knee on the neck of George Floyd and killed that man in broad daylight with many observers. A young teen who had videotaped the entire thing never did waver away from the scene. We were able to see very clearly what was going on there. And I kept telling you, as we've been doing updates weekly, I didn't know how anybody could find him not guilty. It was as clear as day. Most of us are happy because on the very rare occasion such as this is the police held accountable for killing someone, especially when it comes to a Black person. And we're gonna hope that this will maybe move the goalposts positively in the direction where police, there's a new standard that the police have to uphold. Of course, that is a big want, that is a big hope, that is a big wish, but it really should not be that much for us to ask for. We are human beings. We should be treated as such. And the police who are out there to protect and serve, we should be able to look at them as what they were hired on to do. So they say that it was a racially diverse jury. I believe they said it was 3 Black men, 1 Black woman, and there were 2 other women on there that they just considered racially multiracial. Okay, that's how they described them. But the jury of 12 women and men were given instructions by the judge, Peter A. Cahill, Cahill. I'm not sure if I'm saying his last name right, but they were given instructions by the judge. And we saw him give them those instructions. You guys, usually in Minnesota, they do not allow cameras into the court proceedings, but in this case, because it was such a high profile case, the judge did allow the cameras inside. They did not allow the cameras to be showing the jury. The jury were kept private. And as far as the people in the audience, there was 1 person from George Floyd's family, there was 1 person from Derek Chauvin's family, and the rest were people that were involved in the trial. After he gave them their instructions, they were checked into a hotel, sequestered so that they can begin deliberations. That was on Monday evening. They say that they worked late Monday evening. They woke up early Tuesday morning, and they got back to deliberations. And by, I'm assuming sometime early that afternoon, they had let the judge know that they were ready, that they had come back with a verdict. And it was probably around 3:30, 4 o'clock. I started getting text messages of people saying, you know, this verdict better be right. You know, my stomach is in knots. And I was like, I was working, so I didn't have the TV on. I didn't know any of this was going on. But when I started getting the text messages, I turned to CNN. So around 4 o'clock is when I realized that they were about to read the verdict. And they were like, yeah, it's going to be happening probably in the next 30 minutes. So then, of course, my stomach and my emotions and everything, just like everybody else, was was all a jumble, because I was like, okay. I mean, because like I said, we are human beings and we all saw that video. I was like, they are going to find this man guilty. That's what my heart was saying. What my mind was reminding me is that many of the past cases that we've seen, even when it was as plain as day and we were able to see it with our own eyes. I mean, we can think back to Rodney King and how we saw all those police beating that man with a baton, and we were all surprised that he wasn't even dead, you know. We know how that case turned out. And this one probably is as big. Well, actually, this case is much bigger because things have built on top. Cases have built on top of each other, on top of each other. So emotions are so high. So when we get to a George Floyd case, actually not a George Floyd case. George Floyd is not on trial here. But when we get to the situation where George Floyd was killed, it brings back like those same emotions when we were waiting on the, what the jury said in the Rodney King case and how pissed. I can't even explain to you, being in Los Angeles at the time, how mad everybody was. And immediately I knew it was bad. I was like, something bad is going to happen. Well, now we were in this same situation. I'm sitting there watching the news. Couldn't even really work after that. Because I was just like, they better get this right. They better get this right. We knew there were 3 charges. I wasn't even sure if we were going to get guilty on all 3 charges, even though I was like, they need to be guilty on all 3. But, just again, I was feeling like from past experience. Well, when they finally did come on back into the room and the judge read the verdicts, we said, we found out that he was found guilty on all 3 charges. When they showed the camera on Derek Chauvin's face, he had his mask on. So all we could see is his eyes. But he was looking like, the alarm on his face, it was like that aha moment where he just finally realized that, okay, I've been found guilty, and I've been found guilty on everything, which very rarely happens. This was a big deal. And the fact that the jury spoke so loud and clearly that we didn't even sit up in them deliberations too long. They said 10 hours and they already had their answers. Usually when a verdict comes back quickly like that, that means that the prosecution has proven their case historically. That's not always the case, but that usually is what it means. And when, it takes longer, it's because now there's somebody within the jury that is feeling something for the defendant. That's usually how it goes. So I was hopeful, and then we got the answers and we got them on all 3. You guys, I couldn't believe my emotions at the time. Like, I'm not like, certain things will get me emotional, certain things will garner a tear or 2. But you guys, I was surprised with myself when they read that verdict, how I was so relieved that I actually had for real crying like that. You guys, I was just like, this is so what this man deserves. And it so rarely happens. It feels so good. Now, nobody wants to see somebody go to jail. But I am definitely an eye for an eye kind of girl. And, they're not going to give him the death penalty or anything like that. But I believe that Derek Chauvin needs to spend the rest of the best years of his life in jail. I didn't write down how old Derek Chauvin is, but if he gets the maximum sentence, which is on the most serious charge, which is the 2nd-degree murder, then he would get 40 years. Now, originally, they say that charge in Minnesota would just be 12.5 years, but the prosecution had asked for special circumstances to up the amount that he can be, charged with, from 12.5 years to 40 years, because there were children present and that children were forced to watch. Well, they weren't forced, but the children were there watching him treat this person inhumanely. And he clearly had abused his power. So they asked that 12.5 could be upped to 40 years. And so that is what he is facing the most serious charges. The other charges carry less time. So we have to wait for sentencing. He will be sentenced in 8 weeks. I saw people yesterday saying they won't celebrate until we get, until we know exactly what he will be charged with. Until we know exactly how long he will be in jail. Many people are starting to feel like maybe the judge won't give him, won't throw the book at him. I believe personally that this judge will be responsible, that he will go along with the overwhelming evidence that the prosecution has presented him and the jury, and he will give him the time that is deserved, which is, I feel like, the full 40 years. Okay, this was not an accident. We saw clearly that he did what he did. It's too bad that we as Black people, though, don't even get to celebrate the small victories. And I say this is a small victory because even though this is a very large case, things continue to happen. This is a moment, though, where we could be at a fork in the road where, people have been calling for police reformation. This case in particular brought out millions and millions of people all over protesting, even in other countries. This is a place in the road where we can either really take the time to make some changes within the police department or go on with business as usual. Now, because of our experience and what we have felt in the past, we feel like it's going to still be business as usual. But I would like to feel hopeful that there will be some changes made. Now, the blue wall, okay, the police culture, that blue culture is so strong that it makes us not feel like there will be real change made. Up until this case, the police have always protected each other. They've always been, in each other's corner and wouldn't go against each other. But we had police from all over the country that were coming in and saying that, what he did was completely wrong, was not standard order, was not necessary. The lethal force that he used, it just wasn't called for. So once you have many police officers who are willing to do this, then that does give you a shadow of hope. But then you also wonder, is it because this was such a large case? So we don't really know if this will be the catalyst for change. We did see that after he was sentenced and after he was handcuffed and taken off, we saw the celebrations. They were showing it on the news. They were showing his family, who said that they were relieved. They spoke with many of his brothers, George Floyd's brothers. And one of the brothers did mention that he felt like maybe he could sleep again because he hadn't been able to sleep with all this going on. I actually just saw on Good Morning America this morning that Botham Jean's mother, the gentleman who was killed in Texas, remember when the police officer mistakenly went into the wrong apartment, is what her defense was, and he was killed. She said that she still hasn't been able to sleep, even after the verdict, even after that woman was sentenced and put in jail and everything. She still hasn't been able to sleep because every time a new police shooting happens, that wound is just opened, and once you get to feeling like maybe you are moving on whichever way that is, then something else happens and it just brings back all the old memories. And I'm sure many of the mothers and many of the families of these other men and women that have been killed will tell you the same. So I feel sorry for George Floyd's family because right now it's just the hype. People are so excited about the fact that finally, the police is being held accountable. But when all the fanfare and everything dies down and it's just them and their feelings again, everyone will realize that George Floyd is gone. Did not have to be, but is. So that is the sad part. And that's the part that I guess keeps many people from celebrating, because it's a no-win here. There's a man that's gone, can't be brought back. But I am still going to hope. I was telling somebody yesterday on my Instagram, I hope I'm not being naive, but I really am hoping that the judge is going to do the right thing as well. And because I don't believe 40 years is asking for too much. I don't believe it when you've killed somebody the way that you did. Okay, you've got the president of the United States calling the family, okay, giving a special speech, the vice president and the president, and speaking about it. And some people will say that it's just a show, but I would like to believe that, people are ready to turn the corner here, and that we see the problem is that the people want one thing, but that police community, that culture, I'm telling you, it is so strong that and then when you think of every little small police department all over the United States, yeah, big cities and all could do quite a bit of changing. These little teeny towns and everything that have these police departments, those are the ones that I'm wondering, how difficult it will be to make those changes in these backwoods areas where, the prejudices and the racisms are still very, very strong. So I say all that to say, yes, we feel good about George Floyd being vindicated, if that's the right word to use, because like I said, he is not here any longer. Derek Chauvin will be held accountable, and that is actually a very good feeling. There were 3 other officers that were there, Thomas Lang, J. Alexander Kung, and Thao. I don't know how to say it. I'll put their names on the screen. They were the other 3 officers who were there. They were charged with aiding and abetting, and they will be tried this coming August. And we'll see what happens with their cases. Their charges were not as serious, but I believe that they should also be held accountable. So yeah, how do you guys feel about it? I feel like that wall, the police wall, I feel like it's wobbly, okay? It's one of those situations where it feels like it can get knocked down and we can really make some changes in the police department as a whole. And but it also feels like all we got to do is put a little, just kind of shore it up on the bottom, strengthen the foundation, and it can stay standing. Look at what had to happen before we could actually charge Derek Chauvin with murder and manslaughter. Okay, we had to get damn near the whole entire world to get out to, that's being exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying. We had to get so many millions of people out to protest all over just to get one man found guilty. Okay, do you know how much work that is? Do you know how much that is to ask of people, to every time that the police department does something, that we asking millions of people to get out and protest? It's emotionally draining. It is physically taxing. People cannot continue to do this over and over and over again. We shouldn't have to do this over and over and over again just to get the attention of 12 jurors. It's time for them to make some changes. Will they do it is the question. But I am going to take the time to be happy that justice was served in this moment. I'm just going to keep it to this moment, that George Floyd, sadly was killed, but his killer was brought to justice. So I'm sure we'll talk more about this, and when we do get the sentencing in 8 weeks. So 8 weeks roughly from now, April 21st, June 21st. So right around the summer solstice, you guys, we are going to be finding out what is Derek Chauvin's. That's not the exact date, but I'm just saying around that time, we'll be finding out exactly how much time Derek Chauvin will be spending in jail. But the job is halfway done, you guys. We did find his ass guilty. All right, you guys. So with that one good case that I'm talking about, I also have to bring you guys a very sad story about a 15-year-old girl by the name of Bryant in Columbus, Ohio, right around the time that we were waiting for the verdict on the Derek Chauvin trial. There was a call made to the police department, and they said that there was a group of girls that were outside of a house fighting, and they believed one of the girls had a knife. So the police rushed to the scene there, and this is where a body cam footage picks up The chief of police in that police department actually released the body cam footage yesterday in full transparency, wanting people to see exactly what happened. And so this is where the body cam footage picks up. We see a police officer as of now. Now this is early on. This is on Wednesday, so they didn't release the police's name at the time when I was reading the articles. It's probably released now, but the police officer gets to the scene, gets out of the car, immediately has his gun drawn. Okay, now you see a group of, now it is chaotic. There are girls screaming. You can see girls, looks like they're fighting, struggling. There's a girl in a black top and dark jeans who pushes one girl to the ground. She turns around and there's another girl that's in like a salmon colored sweatsuit. She goes up to that girl as if she was going to stab her. She is the girl that has the knife. So she kind of swings the knife at that girl. And then the police officer who is wearing the body cam where we can see the footage, he had his gun drawn and he shot 4 times, okay, and was able to hit the girl, Makia, in those 4 shots. She immediately falls to the ground. The knife drops out of her hand. Then there's another police officer who walks up to check on her. And then, of course, everything stops. And now everybody is screaming that you killed, you shot this girl. She's 15. She's a kid. Why'd you do that? So now it's turned into something else. And the video is very disturbing because, first of all, somebody sent it to me yesterday. I didn't even know what it was because like I told you guys, I was not on social media, even though, and I hadn't been on social media much after the Derek Chauvin trial. So I didn't know anything about this, but somebody sent it to me, and I was watching the video and I was just like, they sent it to me blind. You guys gonna stop sending me these traumatic videos blind? I mean, at least give me a warning of what was going on. But I think they thought that I had already seen it. I hadn't seen it. So when I was watching the video, I just could not understand why a police officer would immediately, this all happens within 15 seconds. Now it sounds like it might have taken a long time. I'm telling you guys, the man just pulled up to the fight. And granted, he did know that it was an out of control situation, that the girls were fighting. This is not just one police officer. It's at least 3 of them there. What I didn't understand was, why wouldn't you try to regain some sort of order? See, this is the reason why we call the police, okay? It's an out of control situation. The people that are in this situation cannot control it. So we call the police because you're to come and you're to restore order and you're to gain control and you're to de-escalate, okay? Usually, generally, when people see the police, we calm it on down, all right? Especially when we know that the police officers have batons and handcuffs and tasers and guns. Once everybody would have realized that the police was there, then that scene probably would have calmed down some. But let's even say that it hadn't calmed down. The police are trained to de-escalate a situation. Okay, I'm sure that there are levels of force that you would use to try to gain control before you get to the very ultimate lethal force of using your gun. All right. Now, when the police officer gets there, instead of even trying to find out who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, like what's happening here, you immediately have your gun drawn. Okay. And you immediately shoot and kill somebody. I know for a fact that if we would have gone to a white party, let's just say, I hate to pull a race card, you guys, but let's just say you get to a party, it's a bunch of white kids, there's drinking, there might be some fighting out there, whatever. I don't believe that a police officer would have come and immediately had their guns drawn. See, what happens is the police are afraid. Okay, they are scared. They're working in communities where they feel like black people are animals and that there's no way to reason with us. And the only way that they can do that is through killing some, shooting them. So he immediately has his gun drawn. That you don't even have a chance to try to gain control of a situation when, you know, you have your gun out. If you can't control yourself enough to try to find out what's happening, yes, it is a lot to ask when you see all this commotion and people all over the place. But I feel like police officers are trained to handle these things. And like I said, he wasn't by himself, you know. So if you have a position where you have this kind of power and you don't know how to use it, then you shouldn't be a police officer. You shouldn't be a police officer. If your first instinct is shooting and killing somebody, when you first get there within 15 fucking seconds, it is disgusting. It's disgusting. Okay. Now, Ma'Khia Bryant was in foster care, and they're saying that there were some girls that were jumping her. They're also saying that she is the one who called the police for help because they were jumping her. All right. And she had the knife because she was attempting to protect herself. So now we have this police officer who has shot and killed the person who was calling for the help, the person who may not have been the aggressor from the beginning. You're getting jumped by some girls, you know, and now she's the one that's, you know, it is terrible. And, you know, the girl, like I said, was in foster care, but she has a family. And the family don't want to see their family member, their loved one, being killed by the police officer, regardless or not she was in foster care. Okay, whatever her issues were, she didn't deserve to die. So it's just the police are so trigger happy. The police just have a different standard for how they treat different people, depending on the community, depending on the skin color, depending on all of these things that are so unfair and, like I said, just disgusting. The police officer has been put on administrative leave. There is an investigation that is going on right now, and this is just yet another, like, we get and this is the name of the game, right? We be so happy about something that'll happen, you know, that'll be some steps forward, and then we'll get a whole bunch of steps backwards, because then at the same fucking time, this is going on. And a police officer shoots and kills a girl who, you know, I don't know. I mean, I know they're going to make a thing about the fact that she had the knife and that she was wielding it. She wasn't wielding it towards the police, but I mean, she was still using it as a weapon. But I just feel like I wish that, I mean, we couldn't have gotten a taser. You know, you couldn't have, a knife doesn't travel as fast or as far as a bullet can. So was there a moment where you could have tasered her and possibly just to stop her from stabbing the girl? Okay, so that we can still try to get some control and people will live to see another day, find out what the story is, what is going on here. All that opportunity was lost because she was dead. So it's a sickening thing. 15-year-old girl is dead. And just yet and still, it's just another one of those things that the police, there is something that has to be done. There's something that has to be done. What that something is, I don't know. Maybe it's policing your own communities. Maybe it's having all black police officers in black areas and white police officers in white areas. I mean, I don't know. That doesn't sound like that's right either. But, or maybe, or I think they were saying having people who live in the community also be the ones to police that community because they know the ins and outs of it. You know what? I don't know what all it needs to be, but it's a lot of things that need to change in the police department because this thing just continues to happen. It's just so tiring, you guys. But anyway, that's all we're going to talk about today. I just wanted to get on here. This is early. Let's Talk About It usually doesn't come until later in the week, but I definitely wanted to be able to celebrate in some kind of fashion with you guys about the George Floyd case. The Ma'Khia Bryant case definitely, or it hasn't been a case yet, but it will be, definitely put a damper on things. But we're we're going to continue to try to keep our eye on the prize, and hopefully that reformation of the police department, we're hoping that it will bring along some change. All right, you guys, let me get on off of here and get on back to work. You guys, make sure that you rate, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm It's Rox. The channel is It's Rox, and everything else I do will be in the bar below. All right? All right, so I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I plan on doing the same. Until next time, rock stars. Bye.